Hello and welcome to another edition of It's My Life with your host and host Chaya Srivatsa, only on radioala.in. I hope you look forward to it as much as I look forward to these shows. I look forward to it for one reason. I meet very, very varied kinds of women and men with varied interests. And it's so good to be just sitting in your chair and learning about so many things. I don't even have to Google anything. I have to just get a person here, and it's like opening a search engine. About that subject, I come to know the various facets of it. And surprisingly, you will find that in every bit of everyone's life, you can see a bit of your own life. We all want to be artists. We all want to be dancers. We all want to be singers. Some of them make it. Some of us, most of us don't. What is it that makes them make it? And what is it that gives them that winning edge over us? That's what we're going to talk today. And I have with me your favorite singer. Guess. A homegrown singer right from Bangalore. Yahan se ug gayi hai wo. Okay? She is Vasundara Das. The singer, the composer, and the songwriter. You have heard of 2-in-1, but you haven't heard of 3-in-1. She is 3-in-1. And I welcome Vasundara to the studio, to the show, It's My Life.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
Now let's start, Vasundara. I want to, fix a context for you, okay? Let's go back to the time Vasundara Das was just Vasundara Das. Tell us about it. Where you studied and what is it that you did and...
So like you said, I am from Bangalore. I've grown up here. I went to school and college right here in Bangalore. And I think those were for everybody else, those are the best years of your life.
Absolutely.
So it's no different for me. I went to a college called Mount Carmel College, which again was I think one of the most important phases of my life because of many reasons. It made me who I am. You
mean college or that particular college?
I guess those years and the fact that I went to that particular college.
Okay.
And I remember the time, when my parents were looking for me to go to college, and those are very, very important years of anybody's life because those are years when you're making very key decisions about who you want to be, what you want to do. And so for me, it was pretty clear that I wanted to go there because, and only because, they had a music association.
Okay, so you were a music buff.
I was...
Very young age.
Yeah, very young. I think the decision to be a musician for life was made when I was in the 7th standard. Mm-hmm. And for me, in my own mind, I'd reasoned it out really well. In the 7th standard, I'd convinced myself I would try to be a musician or a singer and make that my career. But if it didn't work out that way, I would still have music in my life. So that was a kind of reasoning.
So music was important.
Music was important, and there was no discussion on whether or not it was going to be in my life.
Did you have any exposure to music in your family? Were there singers in your family?
Yes, I come from a very musically oriented family. My grandmother studied Hindustani classical music under the Gandhar Mahavidyalaya in Delhi. And she had opened a school at home.
Oh, wow.
Of Hindustani classical, tabla, vocal tabla, and also piano. She had invested in a piano, and we had one at home. And I think from the time that I was born, there was music all around me because of these reasons. And of course, the one association that I make with my family and music is the fact that whatever the occasion, whether it was a puja or a party, it was always celebrated with music at home.
Okay.
So not just my grandmom, her sisters, brothers, my mother's family, everybody had music in their lives. And coming from the kind of family that I came from, we were encouraged to learn some form of art.
I want to ask you this, Vasundara, based on this is, do you think music is a natural talent or is it nurtured by this kind of environments that you had?
It's a little bit of both, honestly. A little bit of it is what you're born with. And of course, if you're born with a good talent and you don't nurture it, it doesn't go anywhere. So it's a little bit of both. And a lot of that credit actually goes to my mother.
Okay.
Because she's the one that drove me back and forth from home to music lessons and back. Mothers invariably end up doing this sort of thing. And I think that if she hadn't striven so hard to make sure that I had a good teacher or to make sure that I had the right opportunities, I may not have had the wherewithal to reach where I have, wherever that is.
See, Vasundara, a lot of moms do have ambitions for their children to become good singers if they discover some talent or something like that. But, most children do not respond to that, They want to bunk their classes and give some excuse, I have a tummy.
I think...
Did you do things like
definitely. See, when I started learning music, I was all of 5. Under
you
my
mean
grandmother.
proper with tal and things like that?
Yes, under my own grandmother first for a few years before she said, this grandmother-granddaughter thing was not
working.
It was not going to work out because of obvious reasons. But of course, at that point in your life, your attention span is shorter. You want to be elsewhere. You want to be out playing with your friends.
Sure.
And, I'm talking about our time when we were out playing with friends actually, and not sitting in front of computers and playing games. But nothing wrong with that either. But I think that at some point there comes a time when you yourself make that distinction, and if it really means something to you, you will turn over, or you will make sure that.
So both the mother and the child must have what is called staying power.
Definitely, but the sustained part doesn't come from the child until
the parents pushing it.
No, until a particular age is reached.
Okay. So but till that stage, the parent has to have a staying power.
Yes.
Okay. You say, oh, she's not interested or he's not interested.
If you give up too easily, then it's lost.
What is it? Is it grueling to... Okay, one is an interest in music. Second thing is somebody teaches you the music. Then the third is a parent motivating you. But what is it that gives you that dum in your voice? Is it riyaz? Is it more and more of exposure to...
Now you're asking me? I mean,
no, when you were growing up.
When I was growing...
Now you're a finished product.
No, I'm still a work in progress, believe me. Music is one of those things that is never really complete. You never ever learn everything there is to know. But when I was growing up, I remember that the main thing that changed everything about how I was approaching it was the fact that early on in my life, I couldn't understand why I was doing it. Because for the first maybe 6 or 7 years of my music study, I was doing it for my mum.
Okay.
Because she wanted me to do it. And then there came a time when the transition happened, and that transition was when I started to like what I was doing. And that for me came with the guru that I was learning from.
Okay.
Because by this time I was not learning with my grandmother anymore, and those, the...
Tuckers that happen.
Yeah, the family
Party,
things.
I don't want to do now.
Yeah, all that had gone, I mean, it was getting a little too expensive. We were losing our relationship.
Yes.
So then the decision was made to move me to a proper teacher. And this teacher, her name is Lalita Kaikini, she's no more.
Oh.
She, I would go to a group session with her thrice a week. And that group session helped me a lot because there were other kids. It wasn't just me, it was a little more fun. And I could hide.
Okay. It went Besura.
I could hide behind other
out.
people or vice versa. But I felt that, my few years of learning with her made me actually fall in love with it.
Mm-hmm. With her or the music?
The music, the way she handled it or the way she sang it. She sang it from her heart. I ended up, that's when you say, I want to sing like that. Those were the times when I would look at her and say, I wish I could sing like her.
Okay.
And so that made the whole world of difference.
I want to ask you here now is how important is the role of a guru, as you say? Right now you said, yes, you were motivated to be able to sing like her or things. Okay.
Very, very important. I mean, because, that relationship becomes somewhat like your relationship with your parents. Because if you really want to be, a singer or a musician, the person that gives that to you or gives you the skills to be that is your guru. So for me, my relationship with both my gurus, Lalita Kaikini as well as Parmeshwar Hegde has been...
That was the next stage you went to, Parmeshwar Hegde. Okay.
Has been one of, extreme closeness, wherein, my biggest fear was to disappoint them.
Okay.
So it meant their opinion
Mattered a lot.
about what, they felt about my singing or my talent mattered so much that the worst thing I could do was disappoint them.
Okay. So first you sang for your mom. Then you sang because you were interested. Then it went to a level when you didn't want to disappoint your guru.
Yeah.
Are these the stages of a progress of a singer?
Not of a singer. It's, music is so subjective.
Personal.
Yeah,
Okay.
subjective. It differs for different people. But these are probably my milestones, and you're sort of articulating them so differently from I've ever done before.
Okay, but does it
but it
relate to what
yes,
you must have felt?
It does make sense.
Okay.
So with respect to my guru for life, Pandit Parmeshwar Hegde, with whom I started learning when I got to high school.
Okay.
For him, and between him and me, it was kind of we had to find our common ground. It didn't come very easily.
Music wasn't the common ground.
It was. But this was at a time when I was, listening to different kinds of music, not necessarily only Hindustani classical. And he saw that as a distraction.
Yes.
And a lot of times we make this mistake of passing judgment on a different kind of music that we don't understand because it's something that we're not familiar with.
Okay.
And he did the same. He's, of course, human. So he said, maybe you're a little more interested in Western music. So why are you wasting your time and my time? There were times when we used to have these kind of discussions. And at one point, he was so mad at me that he didn't teach me he refused to see me for a year.
For a year?
Because he said, you're
Job, apne raste chor.
yeah, you're obviously interested in something else. And I remembered that my first reaction to that was anger. How you get angry when you're at that point in your life. And then the second emotion was, why? It's not like I stole something or, I just listened to some things that I'm interested in that maybe
you couldn't understand where he was coming from.
His rejection. See, because at that point, it's very difficult for you to separate yourself from
the professional thing of it.
Not really, but like the judgment that they pass on you of this sort, you don't have the maturity to separate that from your personality. Separate it
the singer from Vasundara.
From who you are, exactly. Okay. And I wasn't obviously able to do that at that point. And for me, it was a rejection of me. You don't like me. That's why you don't want to teach me.
You don't like my nose. You don't like my eye.
So at that, but about a year later, I think my mom said, okay, enough of this madness. And she confronted him and said, what is it that you're trying to tell her?
So that 1 year, what did you do? Did you go to another guru or did you just do riyaz on your own?
I was so mad that I said, okay, I don't need this in my life.
You don't need music? You rejected music?
No. I said, I don't need Hindustani classical. I'll do something else.
Western classic. Western music.
I'll be, music will be in my life on my terms. Whatever those may be.
Okay.
So for that, at the end of that 1 year, my mom said, this is mad. You guys, both of you have to stop this. So she sat us both down in the same room and she said, okay, what's your problem? She asked him. And he said, she only listens to Western and this and that. And I was actually listening to world music. I was listening to music from Azerbaijan and from Africa and from Spain.
And he didn't want you to do that.
He
only because he thought you would dissipate the main thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
For him, his dream for me was probably that I would do a classical concert or become a classical singer and stuff. And obviously, I had different ideas. And then he said, so when this confrontation took place, my mom said, what's wrong with that? Isn't it music? And so this was the kind of... And suddenly he started seeing it differently. And grudgingly accepted defeat and said, okay, come back to class from next week. But now there's going to be a different approach that we're going to take. You're going to bring me a CD of something I've never heard every class because I want to know what you're doing.
Okay.
Or what your interests are. Why are you listening to this?
And you have to explain to me what you like about it.
Yeah. So then it became a
music appreciation class.
It became a two-way street.
Yeah.
Up until then, it had only been, you're my guru, whatever you say is correct, and I cannot question you, and I respect you beyond belief, and I just have to learn what you have to say. But for me, when he opened that door and said, okay, now it's a two-way communication, my respect for him
Went up.
grew. And then I said, okay, now this is somebody that at least gives a damn about who I am or what my interests are. And that made me want to learn Hindustani again.
Okay, now you're talking a lot about Hindustani. Have you never learned Carnatic music?
No, I've never learned Carnatic music.
And okay, the fact that your grandmother was in Delhi, maybe that was her exposure to Hindustani classical music. And
I think my whole paternal, my dad's side of the family has been very influenced by Hindustani classical music from 2-3 generations before me.
Right.
So it's just been...
Otherwise, traditionally, any Tambram girl would be learning Sarigama Padanisa, the Carnatic way.
Yeah.
Have you ever learnt it?
No.
No, not at all.
Right from the age of 5. I mean, it's quite funny because my grandmom sat me and my elder cousin, down one day when I was 5 and he was 9. And she asked both of us what we wanted to learn, in front of a harmonium and everything. And my cousin said, the choice was given to us. She said, Carnatic or Hindustani? At 5, I didn't know the difference. My elder cousin said Hindustani, like as if it was an obvious choice. He sounded so convincing that I said, okay.
So you also said Xerox copy.
Yeah, okay. The same thing, him.
No regrets?
No.
What about the language? Because Hindustani is like the diction, the pronunciation and all those things. Do you think you're able to get the right kind of it?
I find that I have a thing with languages.
Okay.
I've right from when I was very little, I would be able to mimic accents and languages very easily. So I never had an accent issue as far as Hindi or Brij, which is a language that's mostly used in Hindustani classical.
I don't know much about Hindustani classical music, but I hear something called the gharanas.
Yeah.
So which gharana do you belong to?
My guru's gharana is a little similar to the Gwalior gharana.
Okay.
But he learnt it from somebody in North Karnataka in Dharwad called Basavraj Rajguru.
Oh yeah, of course, definitely. Heard of him.
Yeah.
And this gharana thing, is it because of a style of singing that's called gharana?
Yeah, there are certain distinctive techniques and styles that go with a particular gharana. But in this day and age, it's
all mixed and fusions.
You listen to so much. You're exposed to so much. So
okay, now when you were learning this Hindustani classical, did you ever think of having a proper stage performance, like music recital? In Carnatic music, it's called kacheri. What do you call it in Hindustani music?
It's called... No, it's like a performance.
Performance, that's what. Did you want to do that? Have you done it? Like
I've
a proper 3-hour thing. वो उसको आलाप लेके आ को लेके इतने सारे
Yeah, I actually did. I did once.
That?
Yes. I did a 1.5 hour khayal performance.
Oh, khayal is nice.
As part of a group of his students on Guru Purnima.
Okay.
So I had a 1.5 hour performance in a whole series of performances by his students. It was terrifying.
You were not in a group, you were alone.
Yeah.
And your voice had to be...
Yeah, I had to, do the alap and the laikari and the tanas and everything.
Yourself.
Yeah.
And it didn't give you a chaska and say, hey, this is what I'd like to do later? No.
It's always there in the back of my head that maybe one day I'd like to do it again.
Do you still practice Carnatic music? I mean, classical music?
Not as often.
Do riyaz?
Not as often as I'd like to.
Okay.
But my riyaz is different now because as long as I'm singing for a few hours of the day, it's
riyaz for the voice,
yeah.
Not really the kind of music.
Not really the kind of music.
One of the most often quoted famous line of Shakespeare was, if music be the food of love, then play on. That was for 400 odd years ago. Even today, music is something that breaks any kind of barrier, isn't it?
Yep.
Language,
culture, class, social.
Whether you understand it or you're not, like Bengali music, we don't understand it. I mean, I don't. But it's so beautiful to listen to Rabindra Sangeet and
yeah.
ghazals, Urdu, so high flown. But the Jordan of the words, the way it is sung, everything, isn't it?
Yeah, music definitely transcends barriers. And if you ask me, music is a language unto its own. It doesn't need classification as far as linguistics are concerned. It has its own way of touching your heart. Different kinds of music will touch different people different ways.
Absolutely. And when you said you were listening to
Azerbaijani music, yeah.
Okay, I don't know what it is, but I know too. That's why I said every show of mine I learn different things, you see. Okay, when you were listening to all this, did you want to move from this to that, like Western music, for example, pop music, or so you were listening to different genres. Is it called genres?
Yeah.
It's a French word, right?
Yeah.
Of music. Did you think, okay, now I'm going to do this or do that?
I remember vividly my fantasy during the 7th standard was that I would have 2 lives, a little bit like Clark Kent and Superman.
Okay.
That I would have a boring day job where I had to wear glasses and a tie.
Yeah, and that gets you the money. Okay.
And I would have this glamorous, night life where I would croon away somewhere. So these are images, and I guess, somewhere down the line, the latter half took over.
The spec wali or the glamour wala. Let's talk about glamour. Okay, when did it hit you, Vasundara? When did glamour hit you?
It never did. I mean, if you notice, since you've known me before and after.
No, I'm not talking about glamour hit you in the way, like fashion and supermodel, that kind of a glamour.
It never
the
did.
world of glamour.
Okay,
how did you? That... Okay, let me put it this way. When did you hit glamour?
I see the word glamour isn't something that I really associate myself with at all.
But bright lights?
Because
bright lights is glamour. When you're walking on the stage with a mic and thousands of people are applauding.
Yeah, but for me that's a personal journey. For me that's still a personal...
Okay, maybe for people like us who watch you, it's wow, what a glamorous life. Okay.
No, because you see, my one and only quest in this entire process that I've been through has been the quest of music. It's led me places and it's gotten me these opportunities that I never ever expected to have gotten. And I've found myself at these crossroads having to make a decision at that particular point of time. And these decisions have sort of rolled into others, and it's kind of been
one
like
takes
a domino
it into another,
effect.
snowballs into another. Okay, now let's just go back a little to your college days. You were very involved in learning music, which means you have to be very disciplined. You can't go hang out with your friends or did you do that also?
Let's just say that when I was in college, I was never in class.
But you were never in class?
But I was never at a theatre or a pub or any of that. I was always in the auditorium practicing for something or the other.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay.
But for me, that wasn't a compromise because there were times when I got out and got to do things that normal teenagers and kids
also
going to college do.
Okay.
But most of the time, I was doing what I really wanted to do.
Sing.
Yeah.
And the college encouraged you with this?
Definitely. We had a principal at the time that was
Sister Genevieve?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sister Genevieve was, I think, all of our backbone,
Yes.
She had our backs. And she made sure we lived our dreams, and she made sure that we were grounded.
She wasn't the type who would say, just go sit in class, get marks.
She wouldn't do that, but she wouldn't take any BS from us.
She was my college mate, you know that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were in the hostel together. She used to ring the bell, college bell, in the evening, and we would go and tell her, what can we do to bribe you to ring it a little early? Never knew that she would end up as a principal of that college. Yeah. Amazing lady. Okay, let's come back now to your college days. And did you take part in extracurricular activities other than music?
Yes, I did. I was in the NCC.
I'm sure you were very popular then, when people would like you to, all the cadets would want you to sing in the evening, cultural programs and all that.
Yeah, very much. Yeah? Through school, I'd been very active in the Guides and Scouts movement. Okay. And other than that, in school I'd been part of the volleyball team. In college, Sister G wanted me to go and play basketball and stuff like that. But then, beyond a point, I had to make a call. It was either or.
Yes. If you crowd your life with too many things,
You don't end up doing anything.
Anything, yeah. All right. Then from college, what did you do next?
Right after college, I struck a deal with my dad. I said, I want 1 year off from you guys nagging me
All right.
about studies and exams and stuff
Still,
like that.
with all these things that you were developing with your music skills,
Yeah.
etc., the parents were still focused on study, right?
No, they just wanted me to have a backup
basic
plan.
degree or something.
A backup plan.
Okay.
They were just being real. I think they were being parents and they were doing what they needed to do.
That, yeah.
And so, I don't grudge them that. I did my degree. I did well.
Okay.
I got a bachelor's degree in mathematics, economics, and statistics. Yeah.
Of all things, mathematics. Okay.
And then, the idea was to get an MBA. And I knew that I could take that year off before I applied for a seat. And so, during that year, I decided to travel a little bit, and I ended up in Madras and auditioned for a record label. This was like I think the third day after I'd left home. And once I'd auditioned, they immediately signed me on so I had a record deal. And we started working on demos pretty much immediately. And once the demos were done by accident or because of the people that I was working with, I got to meet a whole bunch of other people. These were all the domino effects. And one of those people was Rahman, who heard my demos and, he was very
impressed.
Kind.
I would say impressed, not kind. You can't be kind in these things.
And then he apparently spoke with Mani Ratnam's office because they were looking to screen test actresses for a film they were starting to work on.
Okay.
And I got invited to do a screen test. It didn't work well, but then somebody saw me there and they suggested me to Kamala Hassan. And then
that's how that movie happened.
That's how I went into screen test for him.
Okay.
And didn't think for a second that I would have the role. But by the end of that day, I had the role. And I was at that crossroad where I had to immediately make a call because he needed me to tell him. He said, we are going to be shooting the film in 3 days. So I need an answer like now. And I don't know what it was in me. I said yes.
Without asking your parents? Or did you call them?
I called them and I said, look, this is what's happened. And they kind of said, okay. My mom kind of went about talking to the elders in the family and all of that. And since it was Kamala Hassan, everybody was very happy.
But did they know what was going to be in the film later?
I don't think so. And
when you signed up, did you know?
I was told.
And you were okay with it?
I decided to take the call and jump in the deep end because there was a path that I was trying to forge for myself in my life, and that had to do with music. And to be successful in the entertainment industry, they also need to know what you look like.
Yeah, sure.
And so this was the best way. What better way than to work with
and the marquee value of Kamal Hassan.
Mainly that.
And
also the role. The role was by no means, it was a dream role for anybody that was aspiring to be an actress.
Yes.
Somebody that had dreamt about being an actress all their life would have given an arm and a leg to be in that role in that film. Because it was so well thought of, so well written.
Any Kamal Hassan movies is...
in this one in particular, in this role in particular, I think had been crafted very well.
You were that traditional wife.
Whatever. I mean,
the traditional woman, I would say. Dressed in that
with modern views,
but looking very traditional,
intellectual. Something that I had seen in my family all the time.
Just to refresh the memory of our listeners,
we're talking about Hey Ram.
Yeah, Hey Ram, and little about what was the role.
The role was of Maithili, who was a young Tambram Iyengar girl from Chennai, who's well read. Who's been to school and college and speaks very good English and has views. Her father's a Gandhian and her father has brought her up to be nationalistic in her views. And this was a time of, azadi and everybody was, talking about freedom and independence. And this was the time of Mahatma Gandhi. And so this was an opinionated woman at that time, in that time. So it was really an intellectual...
Even today, if you have such opinions, you're still known as an opinionated woman.
That's fine.
Nothing has changed much.
I don't see anything wrong in that.
No, I know you don't, but many do. isn't it? That's the sad part of it.
Well, their loss, I guess. So, since I had seen this woman and so many people in my family, I identified with her very well.
Okay.
And I guess that also contributed to why I got so much critical acclaim for that film. There was a lot of talk about it. Of course, there was a lot of talk about, the scenes and all of that.
Yeah, but that was because, number one, it's a Tamil film. And second thing is you just entered the industry and they just wanted to, what do they call it, sensationalize that.
That's fine. I mean, that's all part and
Did
parcel
that get
of
you
the
some more roles? That you did the Monsoon Wedding also later.
Yeah, but that Meera hadn't seen Hey Ram when she cast me. I'd gone and read some scenes for her from the Monsoon Wedding screenplay, and I screen tested with her, and that's when I got the role.
Which one did you like better playing, the Monsoon Wedding role or the Hey Ram role?
It's difficult to judge them, and
they're totally different
yeah.
categories, no?
Completely different times and different people. It's just, as an actor, you're always excited to play something that you've not played before.
Sure.
So suddenly I was thinking in a different way. I'd always been thinking about things from a musician's point of view. But now suddenly I had to look at
scripting and dialogues and things like that.
Yeah, and who I was going to play and who are these people and do I identify with them or do I not, and how can I best fit into these roles. So there's a whole other... I jumped into this, with my eyes closed, literally, didn't know where it was going to go. And when it started sending me down tracks where I had to explore a completely different side of people's psyche, it was great food for thought because it, and eventually ended up making me a much more aware, sensitive musician.
Really?
Yeah, because now suddenly I was a little more aware of so
the
many
talent
more
and
things.
skill that you have.
Not of myself, but just of, how I perceive music. How I perceive music. A little more of an all-rounded approach to how I perceive music.
Did you consciously give up?
Versa.
Did you consciously give up going into
when it
acting?
Started coming in the way of music, then I decided to take a step back.
So you were very sure this is what you want to do?
From day one. I'm not even kidding.
You're saying right from your 5th year you wanted to... Music was your passion.
That was it. And so, after that I did some really wonderful roles in Malayalam also.
Really?
In a film called Ravana Prabhu. Then I did a super duper hit Tamil film called Citizen. But after those films, the roles that came to me didn't justify the amount of time that I would have to spend away from music. And that's when I made this conscious decision that...
Withdraw from that and focus.
Not necessarily withdraw. Never close a door is what I say.
So you're still open?
But I just
still
took a step
open to
back.
acting?
Whenever.
Whenever. Okay. No, that's a nice signal you can give to producers looking out. And I mean, Vasundara is available. And now we are going to talk about her latest passion, the Shah Hussain Project. Tell us about it.
The Shah Hussain Project is actually a chain of inspiration. This chain of inspiration started 500 years ago. A man called Hazrat Shah Hussain, who was a very well-respected poet when you look back, decided to write about his time in poetry, which was very well written, written to rhythmic meter. The metaphors were beautiful. He was talking about his society in his time, and 500 years later, he's still remembered as a great writer, a great thinker of his time.
Okay.
He wrote mainly in Punjabi.
Which country did he belong to?
He came from Lahore,
okay,
Pakistan, but then it was India. And basically, he was a social commentator.
Okay.
And a lot of people have subsequently taken inspiration from his poetry and put it to music, put it to song. And now, the past 2 years, I have been working very closely with a folk singer, Sufi singer from Rajasthan called Mir Mukhtiar Ali.
Okay.
And also with Roberto and, my team.
Roberto is your partner.
Yeah, my partner at the Active Studio. We have a studio here in Bangalore. And we've been working on this collaboration with Mukhtiar for the past 2 years. We have been putting Shah Hussein's poetry to music. And music in the sense of what it is today in India. It's very open-ended, and there are different styles of music that combine for it to be what it is.
So it's not really tight into boxes. Earlier it used to be this style or that style. Today it's free-flowing.
It's a bit open, yes.
Okay.
So for example, there are influences of rock, pop, R&B,
into
blues,
Sufi music also?
blues, and we've applied it in the Sufi format, into the Sufi poetry. And that is what the Shah Hussain Project is. And like I said, it's a chain of inspiration. So it doesn't stop necessarily, in my eyes, with the music. So we got up-and-coming artist called Shailo Shiv Suleiman, who came and collaborated on us for visuals. And she's made some beautiful paintings and stuff. So it's, she's the third rung in the chain.
Okay. It's like an audio-visual project.
Right now it's audio. It's mostly audio.
No, with her doing
some artwork, yes, it is getting to be a visual project.
How are you popularizing this? Are you giving performances?
We started off, this project released on the 1st of May.
Okay.
We released the physical CDs of it with a concert on the 5th of May. And now we will be touring with it around the world. And, basically it's online. It's available for purchase on iTunes and on Amazon and different.
What does one do? Just type Shah Hussain Project and
if you go to facebook.com/the Shah Hussain Project, there's a lot of information about where the albums are available. We're also on Twitter @ Shah Hussain Proj. And of course we have a website www.theshahhussainproject.com.
Okay.
So if you went there, then the links would lead you to the stores online.
What kind of people would like this music? I mean, see, normally certain kind of music is appreciated by a certain kind of people. I would think so. Am I right or not?
It's very subjective, yes, you're right. But I would like to think that it's quite universal. And so far we've had great positive reactions from all the way as far as Japan and Greece and Russia and Latin America and also India and Pakistan. We've had a lot of people buying it in the UK and the US, of course, Korea.
So language is not the barrier here. It's the way of singing and the...
Probably the style of the music and the way it sort of flows is opening doors in places that we weren't expecting it to open doors. But we're really thrilled to be, hearing from all of these people that are listening to it in all these countries. And
now you're totally focusing on this, is it? To promote this
Right now, this is the focus because we've just launched this project and we're currently working the project has 2 volumes. We launched volume 1 on the 1st of May, and we're working on volume 2 because there's just so much of his work that we can put to music.
Now, who are the we now? It's you? What's this we comprising of?
We is me, Mukhtiar Ali, Roberto Narayan, and the entire team that has been a part of this. It comprises talented musicians from from India.
Okay.
One is Vishal J. Singh, who's from Assam. Rajan Tisge, who's a keyboard player from Pune. Shalini Mohan and Hemant Divakaran, who are bass and guitar players from Bangalore. And on tour with us is also a young guitar player called Anish Nad from Bangalore. We have technicians who've come on board with us.
Sound and maintaining the sound.
The engineer who mixed and mastered the album is from originally from Hyderabad. His name is Shadab Rain. He mixes.
How did you bring all these people together from different parts of the country and with different talents?
Well, project like this, which is a collaboration, is what it is because of the collaborators that are part of it. And so, for me, I've worked with all of these different people in different projects before. And somehow bringing them all into under one fold for this project was simple because we already had working relationships with each of them. The only person that we'd never worked with before was Mukhtiar.
Okay.
And for Mukhtiar, I have to say that he was such a pleasure to work with. Somebody that he's been collaborating with people in France and people here in India. Very diverse projects he's been working on. But for him, this was the first time that he was completely included in a project, and the direction of the project also, was very sort of coherently part of who he is. The direction that we took was, including him in terms of his music as well as his personality.
Okay.
So for him, he felt like he was really a very big
really
part
belonging to this whole
Yes. So if you speak to him, you will see him exude that kind of warmth towards it. And of course, on top of all of that, we were literally plucking him out of his comfort zone and asking him to do things he'd never done before, which was like, sing with a band, rather than a tabla player, harmonium player, sarangi player, which is what he usually does when he goes. He travels all over the world and does concerts. But when he does that, he's always with his comfort zone, with his harmonium in front of him, seated.
But now
over here, he has to stand. He has to stand with me and he has to sing, backed by a band.
And the drums.
Yeah.
And the guitar.
Yes.
Okay. But he blended very well. I attended one of the concert.
Yes.
He didn't look like he was out of his comfort zone at all.
Yeah, we'd been working quite hard, and he was probably working the hardest on, making sure that he had all the parts right. And it's definitely been a journey for him, from Pugal to Bangalore.
What's that place? Pugal.
He's from Pugal, which is a small village about 40 kilometers from the border with Pakistan.
Isn't this amazing about India? The variety, the diversity, and
the fact that we can come together like nowhere else.
Yes, nowhere, and all these kind of things merge into one whole kind of a thing, isn't it? And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Vasundara.
Thank you.